Welcome to 1010 Talk. Welcome to 1010 Talk, guys. It's Adam. Today we're reviewing a pretty cool watch that sort of, I feel like, made its appearance without much hype. It just sort of made a splash. I think the first time I've ever heard about this watch was via Bruce Williams' channel, and he was kind enough to lend in the new Orient Triton dive watch, I think also coined now the mini Orient saturation diver, in for review. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so this is the Orient Triton. I'm going to go ahead and move these hands so that you can see the power reserve a little bit better. You can see I picked up this watch while it was completely dead. And first things first, what I'm going to do is for you guys, just wind up the crown so you can see how fast that power reserve goes up to 4. You can see it right up here at the top. So pretty awesome power reserve function that I'm a huge fan of, our power reserve display. But before we kind of get into the dial and the displays and sort of some of the features, I'm going to go ahead and go over some technical specs really quickly now that this sucker is wound up and ticking. So it has a power reserve of 40 hours, and this is via the Orient Caliber 40N5A automatic movement. And as you can see, it was hand winding, and it is hacking as well. It has a sapphire crystal with an AR coating, which is definitely a step above a lot of the different Seikos that you get in this price point, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But mostly you just get pretty much hard Lex at this price point in different Seikos. So that is a really cool thing. An anti-reflective coating, in my opinion, at least on one side, is a pretty awesome feature to have. So the clasp is a typical fold-over clasp with the double push button deployant, which is definitely one of the best. You can see it's just sort of a stamped clasp. So clasp is not the greatest quality, but it definitely is nice and secure. It is a screw down crown, of course, because this is a dive watch. And it is 200-meter water resistant stainless steel case material. Not exactly sure if this is 316L or whatever it is, but it feels pretty solid, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was 316L steel. The case diameter is 43.4 millimeters. I can tell you guys that this wears almost identically to an SKX. The bezel is a little bit thinner, which makes the dial appear a little bit larger. The dial is actually a little bit larger, which makes it feel a little bit larger on the wrist. I believe the SKX is 42.5 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. But you can expect it to wear pretty similarly. And of course, that is without the crown. The case thickness is 13.6 millimeters, which actually is not too bad for a dive watch. I feel like a lot of dive watches these days, you'll get into the 14, 15, even 16 millimeter thickness. I believe the MM300 Seiko is 15 millimeters, so it is kind of nice to have a watch that's under 14 millimeters. The bezel, of course, is stainless steel. You can see the dial color on this one is this kind of radiant blue, which really pops even in these studio lights. And I urge you to check out Bruce Williams' channel to see in the daylight how this blue dial really pops in the sunlight. Has a unidirectional 120 click bezel, which it feels okay. I'm not going to say it feels like a quality bezel. If anything, it's definitely on the cheaper side. It feels a little tinny. But, you know, at the price point, you're getting a lot of bang for buck in other areas. So the bezel is more than adequate, I think. Of course, has a date function there. 22 millimeter lug width, which is really nice. A pretty universal lug width for a bunch of different straps. Comes with a 1-year Orient USA warranty as well. And as I mentioned before, one of the things that I really like is it has this power reserve complication, which in my opinion is really cool. So overall, let's talk about the quality of this. You can see it is pretty nice. I like how this case actually has a lot of polished and brushed, or I guess you could say these are more like satin edges. Actually, they are brushed edges. I like the contrast in that. I always feel like A lot of Japanese watches for the price point have pretty nice finishes overall, or a contrast between polish and brushing. I think that adds a lot to the visual effect of seeing the watch in person. Some things that you might not be able to pick up completely on camera, but I'm trying to do my best here so you guys can see that contrast right there on this top lug. Overall, I really love the design of the dial itself. Pretty straightforward dial. You have the applied markers, which are really nice. Wish I had some macro shots on here, but they do seem like very high quality. And I, of course, as I mentioned, that power reserve, really love the dashes of red on there. It goes well with the Orient logo, which has a little bit of red in the O above the Orient logo. I do actually kind of like how they went the unorthodox style and put the logo on the bottom. I feel like usually power reserves you'll find at the bottom somewhere here on a dial rather than at the top. I think it sort of adds a unique flair to this Triton and will make it a much more recognizable and sort of original design that people will easily be able to pick up. Now, I really do love this sort of almost sunburst gradient style blue dial that they have on here. And it kind of takes me back to my very first automatic watch as well. Believe it or not, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the channel before, but my first automatic watch ever was an Orient Ray 2. And that's still actually at my parents' house. My dad wears that watch now because I never wear it anymore. But it had this exact style blue dial, which really looks amazing in the sunlight, as I mentioned earlier. So this Orient definitely has brings back some nostalgia for me. So I talked about the case, talked about the dial. Let's get to the bracelet, the thing that probably leaves the most to be desired on this thing. You can see it's completely brushed, it almost looks like a satin finish more than a brush, just like it does on the lugs. Definitely is a little bit rattly, so the quality's not going to be there completely. Use a standard push pins. You can see the arrows there to release the pins. And like I mentioned before, the clasp isn't the best. It's just a standard sort of stamped clasp that, to be honest, feels pretty cheap. They do have a stamped logo there as well on the clasp. And yeah, there's really not much to say about it. It does have a diver's extension, which I've never used in my entire life, and I'm sure most of the people on here haven't used either. But if you were ever to ever go diving, that is there to put over your wetsuit if need be. Overall, this watch is, the price point for this, I believe $300 something on Creation watches, but they've been sold out since the first week of the release of this watch. I think Orient has this listed as $655 on their website, and I'm pretty sure you can easily find a 30% off discount code either via their Facebook or just typing it in Google or something like that. But regardless, this watch sits somewhere around $400 to $500 right now, I think, on different eBay listings and on the secondhand market. And I can't help but think that at that price point, I would rather go with something like a Seiko Sumo, which in my opinion has the best finishing of any watch under $500. And you can get those, I think, regularly now on even Amazon Prime for the low 400s right now. There's the Seiko Alpinist, which is definitely in a similar price point to this as well. And there's even watches like the Seiko Turtle and the Seiko Samurai, which I think hold their own against a watch even like this. So overall, while I do appreciate this new unique style Orient and what Orient did with this new price point diver under $500, I think I would still probably stick with the Seiko diver over the Orient. So I'm going to do a quick Loom shot for you guys just so you can see. This is, believe it or not, the first time that I'm going to actually be seeing this Loom as well. I'm not even sure what formula they use for this. I'm sure it's similar to some type of Lumibrite because Seiko and Orient are related. So let's see how this Orient looks in darkness. So as you guys can see, pretty damn good Loom. Not as good as some of the Seiko equivalents like the Sumo or my tuna even, or a turtle. But it is still pretty damn good and definitely going to be legible underwater. So guys, I think you know pretty much where I stand with this watch. Like I said, it means a lot to me in terms of sort of nostalgia and everything because of the Orient Ray that I owned. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys think it's a pretty good value prop, how you compare this to the different Seiko divers that maybe you've experienced, like the Sumo, or even like an SKX or something like that. Let me know, guys, and let me know if you would ever actually buy this watch. Anyways, until the next review, I will catch you guys in the next one. 10-10 talk.